Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special live coverage to highlight the speech of the State of Kuwait in the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which was delivered last night by the representative of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. May Allah bless and protect him. His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, may Allah protect him. The UN General Assembly annual high-level general debate started in New York City last Tuesday, September the 19th. The theme of this year's session is entitled Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity, Accelerating Action on the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals towards Peace, Prosperity, Progress and Sustainability for All. And in this special live coverage, we will review, analyze and stop at the most prominent subjects mentioned in the State of Kuwait speech with our guest here in the studio, Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami, econometrician. But before we begin, let's take a look at this report.
The representative of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, delivered a speech before the United Nations General Assembly in its 78th session and pointed out many great points regarding local and regional issues. His Highness the Prime Minister said that Kuwait considers the agreement regulating navigation in Khor Abdullah with Iraq to be valid, calling on brotherly Iraq to demonstrate good intentions and complete the meetings of the technical teams concerned with demarcating the borders beyond point 162. The representative of His Highness the Emir added that Kuwait was keen to help Iraq advance itself and return to its regional and international standing. He stressed the need for Iraq to take concrete, decisive and urgent measures to address the repercussions and fallacies of the ruling. He continued, "We reserve our full right to take whatever measures we deem appropriate to preserve the legitimate rights." He stressed that Dora Field is joint ownership between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and no other party has rights to it. The representative of His Highness the Emir appreciated Saudi Arabia's announcement to establish a global water organization in an effort to sustain water resources. He stressed the centrality of the Palestinian issue in the Arab and Islamic worlds. He called on all parties in Sudan to stop the fighting and support the Saudi-American initiative. The representative of His Highness the Emir stressed the need to intensify efforts to reach a political solution in Syria in accordance with Security Council resolutions.
خمسة 75 سنة عانى خلالها الأشقاء من الشعب الفلسطيني الحر عن عجز المجتمع الدولي عن تنفيذ قرارات الشرعية الدولية ومن ممارسات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي التي تنتهك كافة الأعراف والقوانين الدولية.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to get into the topic of the representative of His Highness the Emir, may Allah bless and protect him, His Highness the Prime Minister's speech before the 78th General Assembly of the United Nations Security Council and focus on the main key points. So we can discuss them furthermore with our guest here in the studio, Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami, econometrician. Good evening, Dr. Abdullah. It's
Good
a
evening.
pleasure having you here with us tonight.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Dr. Abdullah, first, let us talk about the importance of the United Nations General Assembly session for this year specifically.
I think over the last 8 decades, it's one of the most important ones. And that builds because you need, after the pandemic and after the war between Ukraine and Russia, is let's say slowing down a little bit and changing positions. So this assembly gathering is coming with a very important thing, and you can see there is a word of prosperity. So this prosperity is what everyone in the world actually looking for, especially with the with the levels of the inflation that's happening everywhere, the toughness of the commodities to be delivered, the logistics, and what the most important thing is the wheat itself is coming from that area to the world.
Wheat.
So, yes.
Correct.
So Ukraine, one of the most producers
Of wheat
Yes.
worldwide, correct.
and that is actually a very important commodity for everyone. This actually give this importance for this very specific moment for the world to be not to enter to a hunger, let's say, pandemic as well. So what everybody is looking for is the prosperity, and that's why His Highness actually insisted on that in every element that was written in his speech. It was bold, comprehensive, and it get all the touchlines that it could involve in.
Correct. Speaking of bold and comprehensive, can we talk about what were touched on many important files? What are your thoughts on the speech of the State of Kuwait?
I think it was regional and global as well. The role of Kuwait in terms of the region, with the neighborhood for Kuwait, and all the, let's say, big files that's happening geopolitically, and also globally, because Kuwait one of the most important resources for oil and energy. So this speech actually comes with a very clear message for everyone that we are here and we're gonna be one of the most important countries in the region regarding to the oil and gas, energy, neighborhood, logistics, transportation. So he gave everybody that we as a Kuwaitis, we're here. And we have a very clear ideas about what we want, and we are very supportive for all the human rights actually in the region, such as the conflict of Palestine, the Syrian case, and all the regional issues that are happening around us.
Speaking of this case, the representative of His Highness the Emir confirmed in his speech the State of Kuwait's firm and unchanging position in supporting the Palestinian right. Can you please tell us more about that?
It is firm and it is bold, and this is a clear message for everyone that we, as past and now or for future, will be the most supportive country for our brothers in Palestine. And this is a very bold statement, okay? In the very specific place of the UN, that Kuwait will support every solution that can give our brothers in Palestine their right to be back, and will support them politically, economically, and all the aspects and at all costs.
By support. So, Dr. Abdullah, Kuwait was chosen by the UN as a humanitarian work center, as the entire world knows. And today,
I can say this is a coronation actually for Kuwait.
a coronation.
Yes, because Kuwait actually is always on the first countries that will help everybody.
Correct.
And if you can see the logistic actually bridge that comes from Kuwait to Libya and Morocco, that represents what the coronation I'm talking about.
Correct.
Kuwait actually was the most supportive country in the world.
In the world to every country in need at any time, at any cost as well.
14 or 13 years ago, we have supported the United States and Japan in the matter of no time, maybe 12 months, with a $1 billion, 500 each. So we are very generous with everybody who helps us in the past, and we're trying to help them in every moment they are very vulnerable for the catastrophics. So yes, Kuwait, as I said, it's a coronation for Kuwait for its role in the global,
in the humanitarian.
yes, in the global humanitarian
center.
world.
And in your opinion, what will Kuwait add to the UN Human Rights Council? We know that we have added so many. What will we also add?
We're adding that we're helping people without any
return.
Yes, and we're not blackmailing any countries. We're not interfering in any countries. We're doing it in terms of kindness, in terms of humanity,
to support everyone.
Coming forward for everybody who's very vulnerable in this world. Yes, Kuwait will support you at all time, at all cost, even if we have some deficits in our budgeting, but yet there is a very coherent corner for humanitarian, because this is our role and this is what we are doing.
And Dr. Abdallah, what do you see for the future in terms of partnership between the state of Kuwait and the United Nations?
I think it's very cooperative actually. Kuwait is one of the main players there, because in terms of geopolitical actually the position of the Kuwait, and our position actually is very important for all the let's say G7 or the big countries actually, or the empires, because we are in the triangle of the biggest countries in the region in terms of area and populations. So yes, Kuwait is very important, and I can say it's a very pivotal point for that, and we can actually build on that with investment, security, because we are a very secured country, alhamdulillah. Kuwait doesn't have any issues in terms of politically or in terms of crime rate or something like this. So businesses can come to Kuwait and thrive. We can be a very strong corner for everybody. The position of Kuwait is
worldwide.
Worldwide, yes,
Correct.
of course. We could be a very good bridge, and we have His Excellency the Crown Prince is visiting China now to justify that with a very important agreements as well.
We have all the resources, and we could collaborate with the leading digital industry as well.
And we have a very thriving economy actually.
A very
thriving economy.
Correct.
So we can build on that. We have the most educated people in the world.
True.
Okay, and they are Kuwaitis with one of the prestige. I say they graduate from the prestigious universities
worldwide.
Yes, and those we can build on them, and we can thrive as much we can for the next 100 years, inshallah.
So we've always been supportive in the past, and we are as well in the future, and I think that Kuwait is an addition for anyone.
Indeed, because this is actually what you get back when you invest in a very good quality education. So when you invest in education, you are building actually a gurus.
Just to justify that our resources doesn't only stick to financial, we also have human resources, very strong human resources. I want to clarify that with Kuwaiti citizens who have graduated from prestigious universities worldwide, who are ready.
Pioneers, actually. We have a lot of
in
pioneers.
every single field.
In every single
whether
field.
It's maths, physics,
well, I think
biology, and digital.
I can say I'm not biased when I say we don't need a very big number of experts to come here to work for.
We already have them here.
We already have much better people here.
And they are already indeed in the field, working in the right place.
Indeed. We just need to correct some angles in the environment, in terms of business environment and work environment. And that's it. You're gonna see actually amazing results.
To collaborate with the world leaders,
and you're gonna see a very good results with a minimal effort, because they just need a good environment, and they will gonna thrive, inshallah.
I know this is there, inshallah. Before we go on with our live coverage, let's go to our next report about the history of the state of Kuwait and the United Nations, and then come back afterwards and discuss it with our distinguished guest, Dr. Abdallah Al-Shami.
The Security Council, at its 1034th meeting, held on the 7th of May of 1963, unanimously decided to recommend to the General Assembly that Kuwait to be admitted to the membership of the United Nations. Following this recommendation, the General Assembly, at its 4th special session, in its 1203rd plenary meeting on the 14th of May of 1963, adopted the resolution number 1872, admitting the state of Kuwait to membership in the United Nations. As a result, the state of Kuwait became the 111th member of the United Nations. His Highness the late Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, serving as Foreign Minister at the time, addressed the General Assembly at its fourth special session. The flag-raising ceremony of the State of Kuwait at the United Nations headquarters took place on the 15th of May of 1963. Since its membership to the United Nations, the State of Kuwait has made significant contributions to work of the United Nations and has been an active partner, working closely to promoting the noble principles and purposes of the United Nations Charter. The permanent mission of the State of Kuwait to the United Nations has been responsible for carrying out the State of Kuwait's participation at the United Nations.
The State of Kuwait has been a model for effective partnership with the United Nations for nearly 60 years. Kuwait is a major player in the areas of political solutions, peace building, and development. It's working very closely with the United Nations to achieve sustainable development goals, including education, health, equality, and economic growth. Kuwait has also cooperated with the United Nations to resolve regional and global issues, which led the foundations to the long-term partnership, especially with Kuwait's distinction in preventive diplomacy and moderation. Also, we have to highlight that the State of Kuwait was also the first in the Gulf to assume the position of member of the Security Council as a non-permanent member during the years 1978 and 1979. With regard to the United Nations Migration Agency, our partnership with the State of Kuwait goes back to more than 30 years. Kuwait was the starting point for our cooperation with the Gulf states and to strengthen our presence in the Gulf region. Kuwait is an essential partner for our humanitarian work through its support for the humanitarian operations reaching millions of people around the world through a variety of programs in many geographical areas. Also, Kuwait welcomed the Global Compact on Migration to strengthen the international cooperation and governance of migration, and our work continues with all partners from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the Ministry of Interior, Public Authority of Manpower, and all entities working on migration governance. We are confident that Kuwait's partnership with the United Nations is strategic, strong, and will achieve common goals and interests.
Kuwait confirmed its ongoing support to multilateral relations and to the United Nations. Kuwait playing a role model as a humanitarian supporters, as a country, as a state that supports peace, that supports balanced approach towards any crisis and conflict. With UNHCR, we've been in Kuwait more than 32 years of partnership. Our partnership has repeatedly and without interruption been supported by the senior political leaders with all the changes that happened in the 30 years. It has an ongoing ground with being a supported partnership between between the State of Kuwait and the UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. Now, more than ever, Kuwait needs to reflect on its role as a humanitarian leader because the crises are increasing. The number of displaced persons all over the world has exceeded 110 million. The underfunded situation is massive. Some lack of attention to some serious situations, and we see now Libya, Sudan, Africa is being remarkably noticed and affecting our assistance. Kuwait has been a humanitarian role model. We need now more than ever for this country to play. And when I say about Kuwait, I say Kuwait and its people, the Kuwaitis also.
The Security Council at its 1,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing this live coverage with our guests in the studio, but we are now joined by Kuwait TV correspondent in New York, Osama Abdulaziz. Osama, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Osama, what are the reactions in New York to the speech of the State of Kuwait delivered by the representative of His Highness the Emir last night?
Well, the United Nations and the state member on the United Nations welcomed His Highness speech, which was gathering all the international and the regional issues that he spoke about, and he expressed and confirmed the state of Kuwait's position from all this issue. He spoke about the Palestinian problem that has been existing for 75 years, and the United Nations could not reach a peaceful resolution to help the Palestinian people. He His Highness stood there and he confirmed the position of the state of Kuwait to help the Palestinian people unconditionally to reach a peaceful resolution, to have a two-state resolution. He asked to help the Sudanese people stop fighting and to help the humanitarian aid. He spoke about supporting the role of the United Nations in Yemen to end the crisis there. He spoke about all the international issues. He spoke about the Islamophobia and asked the world and the leaders to help with the United Nations to put an end to that issue, especially in Europe and the burning of the Holy Book, Quran. His Highness spoke about measures of issues, and they welcome the Kuwait opinion and Kuwait policies that is based on peace and supporting peace around the world and helping in humanitarian aid, which is the main role of the UN these days. And the state of Kuwait has ensured that the strategic partnership with the United Nations to go through the humanitarian aid in various places in the world that is in need through the help of the United Nations and the state of Kuwait.
The representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Prime Minister, touched on several important topics in his speech. Can we review those points, please?
Well, like I said, he spoke about the neighboring state of Iraq, and he affirmed the right to the state of Kuwait to answer the recent development in this issue through the United Nations and the international law. And the United Nations opinion at this point that they are supporting of the state of Kuwait because the international law and the UN resolution supporting the state of Kuwait, and also during the bilateral meeting that I had with the foreign minister, the Kuwait foreign minister, and the State Department of the United States. The United States supporting supporting the state of Kuwait and its position. Also, His Highness spoke about a lot of humanitarian issue that is being facing the world now, and he asked the United Nations to gather and to find a way of reaching the needy around the world.
Mr. Osama, before we conclude here, what about the meetings that were held on the sidelines of the General Assembly debate of the representative of His Highness the Emir?
Yes, as we know, because of the position of the state of Kuwait and the way that is being conducting its business in the United Nations and around the world, a lot of the world leaders asked to meet with the His Highness, the representative of the Emir, and the Kuwait delegation during the GA. The General Assembly, the 78th, has the most gathering since 2019, since COVID. Since we had COVID, and it was in a full session. We had more 99 presidents during this session, and most of them asked to have bilateral meeting with the state of Kuwait. The delegation of Kuwait under the president of His Highness have met with a lot of world leaders, and they all looking forward to meet with the state of Kuwait to emphasize the diplomatic relationship between the state of Kuwait and the state member of the United Nations.
That was Mr. Osama Abdelaziz, our correspondent from New York. Thank you for joining us.
تفاجأنا بصدور حكم عن المحكمة الاتحادية العليا في جمهورية العراق الشقيقة يقضي بعدم دستورية قانون التصديق على اتفاقية تنظيم الملاحة البحرية في خور عبد الله المبرمة بين دولة الكويت وجمهورية العراق في عام 2012.
Before we go on with the live coverage, let's go deeper in the speech and focus on one of the main topics that was delivered by His Highness the Prime Minister. The representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, affirmed that Kuwait considers the agreement to regulate navigation in Khor Abdullah waterway valid and in full force.
Representative of His Highness the Emir, His Highness Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, affirmed that Kuwait considers the agreement to regulate navigation in Khor Abdullah waterway valid and in full force. This came in His Highness the Prime Minister's speech at the 78th United Nations General Assembly in New York, where he affirmed that the state of Kuwait will consider the agreement to relegate navigation in Khor Abdullah waterway and the security swap protocol effective because of their importance in maintaining security and safety of navigation. He underlined that the agreement and the protocol are crucial for preventing chaos, border violations, and the high possibility of influx of illicit arms and drugs, which are the two main sources for financing various terrorist militias. His Highness the Emir representative pointed out that the state of Kuwait over nearly 2 decades and out of its belief in principle of good neighborliness has standing by the side of Iraq to develop and restore its regional and international status to achieve the hopes and aspirations of its people. He also regretted the historical fallacies about Kuwait mentioned in the court ruling. His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf called on the Iraqi government to act swiftly to address the fallouts of the Supreme Court's verdict. He reiterated Kuwait's call for mutual respect of the security, independence and territorial integrity of both countries that signed bilateral agreements and the relevant UN resolution, most notably the UN Security Council Resolution number 833, which delineated the land and sea borders between the two sides up to the marine mark number 162. He said at the end of mentioning the topic in his speech that we call on the Brotherly Republic of Iraq to prove good intentions and complete the meetings of the relevant technical teams till the demarcation of the borders beyond Mark 162 in accordance with the international laws and conventions. The state of Kuwait reserves its full right to take whatever measures it deems necessary at the legal and international levels to preserve its established, legitimate and legal rights in accordance with the international resolutions and the international law provisions.
And we are back in the studio with our guest, Dr. Abdullah Al-Shami, econometrician. Dr. Abdullah, let us stop at this meeting that we just watched in the following report. What is your comment on the statements of His Highness the Emir's representative regarding the border file with Iraq? And how do you view Kuwaiti diplomacy on this file?
I think we have a very essential agreement that's already been sealed by the UN. So
Correct.
Talking about legalization and whatever happens in the federal court, actually, is another league. We can't build on it because we have a global agreement, and everybody should fulfill this agreement with all the respect for any other narratives is already there. So we can't play politics here because it's a sealed agreement.
Correct.
What we need is everybody to obey and to fulfill this agreement, so we can build up a very good economy between northern border of Kuwait and the southern border of Iraq. We, as a Kuwaitis, we did everything we can do to help the Iraqis in their bad days. Now they are getting on the track, so I think they should pay back for us what we did over the last 2 decades for them, since then the conflict between them and the US. So for this agreement, which been written 11
Sealed.
years, it's sealed. That's it.
And in your opinion,
You can't appeal that in local courts.
in your opinion, what is required of Kuwait to deal with this ruling that was issued by the Iraqi Federal Court?
Actually, we did already. We said in a bold statement in the UN Assembly that everybody should fulfill this
Agreement that has
So-
been sealed,
and this is an essential actually position for Kuwait.
and the message was sent.
That's it. So nothing more. The diplomacy actually is trying to soften all the, let's say, disagreements that happening between both parties, and yet I'm 100% positive that everybody will take and become rational and fulfill that in very easy way. Yet we have some issues with other parties, but this is an official agreement between two senior countries in the region with more than 100 years of cross borders. We have relatives there. We have friends, and all the people actually have no issues. So we need to let down the diplomacy doing their jobs, the job actually, and to get the result easily.
And about the joint U.S. Gulf statement, which stressed Iraq's call for the necessity of respecting the sovereignty of the state of Kuwait and quickly completing the maritime borders. What is the impact of the U.S. Gulf statement on the current scene right now?
Well, I think the Americans actually will be very supportive in that, because they govern all these agreements. They use their diplomacy as well to soften all the disagreements that happening in the past. They know the both parties very well. We have a very good relationship with them. So yes, I think it's in the right direction.
It's in the correct direction,
Yes.
as you know. And Dr. Abdullah, do you think Kuwait's move towards what was raised from the Constitutional Court in Iraq is sufficient and enough or not?
I don't think so.
It's not.
No.
Do you think there will be a resolution to this file?
Yeah, as
There
I
should
said,
be.
it should be, but we need to slow down. That's it. Everybody should slow down, stick with the agreement, and go forward. Just build, have a good relation, okay? Have a good joint venture, a good establishments actually between both parties, and yet it will become easily.
So,
You don't
good
need
neighboring.
yes, actually,
The file has been sealed
indeed, and
instead of going in the same circle.
you don't need to stubborn on issues actually happens 100 years or 100 years ago. Okay, you don't need to stick with an old, let's say, an old thoughts. It's not sufficient.
We need to move on.
We need to move on. That's it.
We're looking at a bright future, and we're working
Yes.
on many other new things
Yes,
for
yes,
the
yes.
greater humanity, as we can say.
I think Kuwait and Iraq become more mature now. And all these small elements has been fixed already.
Perfect.
Everybody has suffered from that. Okay, let's say economically, in terms of blood, war, everything, conflicts, everything has happened already. But we need to forget all of that and start
A new chapter.
a new chapter, a new era, titled with prosperity and cooperation. That's it.
I completely agree. Dr. Abdullah, let's take a quick break, take a look at this report, and we'll get back to more questions with you.
Thank you.
During his visit to the United States, the representative of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, received the Executive Vice President and President of Microsoft. He also received as well Chief Investment Officer of Alphabet and Google. And during the talks, developments in cooperation between Kuwait and Google Cloud were touched on after the recent signing of the strategic partnership agreement between the two sides.
Representative of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, received during his visit to New York Executive Vice President and President of Microsoft Global Sales, Marketing and Operations, Jean-Philippe Courtois. During the meeting, the country's development plan for digital transformation and artificial intelligence solutions were discussed, and views were exchanged on the mechanism of creating a digital infrastructure capable of attracting investment assets and creating a pioneering and distinguished business environment that contributes to the development of the national economy. His Highness also received the Chief Investment Officer of Alphabet and Google, Roth Porat, and her accompanying delegation. During the talks, development and cooperation between Kuwait and Google Cloud were touched on after the recent signing of the strategic partnership agreement between the two sides to support digital transformation in the country.
And we're back again in the studio with our guest, Dr. Abdullah Shami, econometrician. Dr. Abdullah, we just saw that report together about Google and iCloud. The representative of His Highness the Emir, may Allah protect and bless him, His Highness the Prime Minister, was keen to receive the leaders of Microsoft, Alphabet and Google. Can we talk about the importance of this?
It is very important. And this is what we're talking about. Because we have a very stable country, those businesses actually looking forward to come to the region, buy Kuwait, and build their growth rate again. Because the markets actually where they operated is already saturated. So they are looking for a new market. So it's very logical for them to be very keen to come to Kuwait and start with those technologies and to be transferred to Kuwait. And they're going to build up with the Kuwaitis who are very good educated and well educated in all terms of technology. We have a very smart guys here in Kuwait. Okay, so they,
as we mentioned earlier,
yes,
the resources are here, human resources, the land is here.
So they're going to have a very thriving economy, brilliant minds, a governmental support. So what else they want to? They just want to start their
to
engine.
Start and go
Yes.
and move digital.
Yes, and what I'm looking for actually for the knowledge to be transferred to Kuwait, and we build on that, as we built already in the 60s, and we became the pioneer for the region.
Correct, we've already had that in the past.
Indeed.
And the Scientific Center, and Kuwait is leading in that field, and we are supporting scientific researchers and doctors as well.
So, what we need to do now is just give the chances for the young people to work, support them, and support those global companies actually, and then we're gonna see amazing results.
So those, as we know, those are huge names, and
It is indeed.
having a collaboration here in Kuwait, giving them the human resources,
They are the
Kuwaiti
biggest.
cadres and the land. I think Kuwait within the next few years is gonna shine also in the digital transformation as well.
We're bringing actually the giant companies in the world to work
Correct.
in Kuwait, and they're gonna be happy because they're gonna find the human resource that they're looking for.
They're looking for what they're
So-
looking for is
so-
already available.
So they don't need to invest in education, in special education. They can build on it. They don't need to import some experts actually to fulfill the requirements because they're already there. The land is there. The governmental support is there. The subsidies is there. So what else they want?
Since we're talking about the digital development, I want to know about this step to advance the wheel of development and contribute to developing the country and achieving the new Kuwait vision, as we say. And Kuwait, that's why Kuwait is pursuing the digital transformation plan, correct? And how is it going to help?
Well, actually, this will make the businesses is easier, clinical, and let's say very dynamic.
Okay.
So, in those terms, actually, for a small country like Kuwait, we can be a center. Because if you see the position of Kuwait geopolitically, we're surrounded with the countries has millions of people, and yet they are not very far from the borders. So we can be a very supportive center for all those people and the populations. And the majority of the 3 countries that we have already, their capital to their cities is much longer than from their cities to the center of Kuwait. So this will give us a very huge advantage actually to invest on that. So we can make them our market and the secondary market and the third market as well. So yes, those giant companies are looking for those populations to be involved as well with the 4.5
new
million.
Kuwait vision as well.
Yes, and the 4.5 million Kuwaitis and the experts already in Kuwait. So we're talking about 10 to 12 and easily to be reached.
Dr. Abdullah, before we conclude here, is there anything you would like to add?
Well, what I need to is we need to be more focused, more clinical, and rely on the national and the citizen people. I actually bet on the patriotism of the Kuwaitis, and I bet hugely. And I think once we get the chances, we will be the pioneers in every field.
Dr. Abdullah, it's a pleasure having you here with us
Thank
today.
you.
I really enjoyed it. I'm sure
you.
our viewers enjoyed our small talk on this show today. Thank you so
very
much for being here.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine. Dear viewers, that brings us to the end of the special coverage of the speech by the representative of His Highness the Emir. May Allah protect and bless him. His Highness the Prime Minister at the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Thank you for watching and have a good evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.